Hola y bienvenidos a otro video. Today I'm going to talk about something that I'm very excited to share with you guys about my travels in Ecuador, so let's get right into it. Ecuador is a little country in South America with some of the largest levels of biodiversity in the world. Many of you are probably familiar with the Galapagos Islands where Darwin studied his theory of evolution, and maybe with the capital, Quito, which is the second highest capital city in the world. It lies at about 9,350 feet above sea level. Quito is a city situated high in the Andes Mountains, which is why it is surrounded by dramatic mountain peaks, and all throughout the city, the streets are constructed on slopes and hills, which make taking taxis and buses very interesting and kind of scary. Quito's streets are lined by both modern apartment buildings and modest concrete plazas and homes. The streets are filled with street art, which both distracted and amazed me during my long walks to the university where I studied. Some must-see attractions in Quito are the Basílica del Voto Nacional, which is a Roman Catholic church located in the historic center of Quito. You can't miss out on the lookout of the city from the top of the basilica. Another sight to see is the Church of the Jesuits, because everything inside is adorned with gold. Quito's teleférico, or gondola lift, can take you up into surrounding peaks in the Andes and is great for seeing an amazing aerial view of the city. Once you get to the top, you can also go on a hike, either by foot or on a horse. But make sure to give yourself a few days to get used to the altitude, because the teleférico will bring you up to about 12,942 feet in elevation, and altitude sickness is no joke. There is also an awesome swing right at a lookout point where you can get some great photos or just feel like you're flying in the majestic Andes. Another interesting attraction in Quito is the Museum of Guayasamín, which is a museum of artwork by the Ecuadorian artist Oswaldo Guayasamín. Here you can admire his abstract art and even visit his hillside home, which is filled with artwork that served as his inspiration. Among the most fascinating was this display of Kama Sutra sculptures. Quito also has great nightlife. For example, you can visit La Ronda, which is located in the historical district. In La Ronda, you can enjoy live music, dance, and sing in karaoke restaurants. This is where I tried a huge and delicious empanada. You can also see an amazing view of La Virgen del Panecillo, or the Virgin of Quito, lit up at night. But don't try to wander too much outside of this area because it's not very safe at night. But Ecuador is a lot more than just those places. Ecuador is comprised of 4 geographical zones: El Oriente to the east, or what we may know as the Amazon jungle, La Sierra in the center, or the Andes Mountains, La Costa, or the coast to the west, and the Galapagos Islands just off the coast. I was lucky enough to visit all of Ecuador's geographical regions besides the Galapagos Islands. Luckily, it's such a small country that you can take one bus ride from the mountains and be on the beach the next morning. I mostly traveled using the bus system, which has its pros and cons, but I got around safely and affordably. I have spent about 6 months in total in Ecuador. The first time that I visited Ecuador was in January of 2019, and I studied abroad in Quito for about 3 months. So this video will be about all of the places that I visited during my first trip. I was living with a host family in Quito near Eco Park during the week and taking weekend trips to nearby cities in the Andes. Towards the end of my study abroad trip, I was able to visit the coast with my study abroad buddy, and I spent the last few weeks of my trip in Baños, exploring the secondary rainforest. And I realized that in order to do justice to this beautiful and diverse country, I will have to make this a multi-part video. Another great weekend trip that you can take in Ecuador is a trip to Papallacta. Papallacta is a small village in the Napo province, about an hour away from Quito, but there is a hot springs spa and resort located there called Termas Papallacta. While on our way to the thermal pools resort, we admired the country and mountain landscape. This was an incredible destination for admiring the surrounding Andes landscape while relaxing in thermal pools of varying temperatures. Another must-see attraction is La Mitad del Mundo, or the middle of the world. This is a mini city with a monument dedicated to its location right on the equatorial line. Other attractions within the park include various museums, such as El Museo de Cacao, or Coco Museum, El Museo de la Cerveza Artesanal, or a craft beer museum, a small planetarium, and Viviendas Ancestrales, or an ancestral homes exhibition with recreations of traditional homes from the Amazon, Andes, and the coast. An attraction that you must visit in Ecuador is an open-air market called Otavalo Marquet. In this market, local indigenous peoples sell colorful textiles and handicrafts, and fresh fruits, grains, and spices. Not to mention that the drive to the market is beautiful, and there are many restaurants that you can stop at to eat fresh fish and other delicious foods. We stopped at a restaurant called Puerto Lago, which was on the shore of a lake with an amazing view of yet another green mountain peak. One of my favorite cities in Ecuador, and where I spent most of my time during my second trip, was a little city called Baños. This city really impressed me because of its location and wealth of activities for locals and tourists. Baños is a city located in the Andes, and it's well known for its access to many trails, including some on the active Tungurahua volcano. It also has the Pastaza River to the east and many waterfalls. La Ruta de las Cascadas, or the Highway of the Waterfalls, is a road leading from Baños to Puyo, and it runs along the Pastaza River Canyon. Often people will ride bikes or drive along the street, stopping at each waterfall and admiring the views. Luckily, Baños is a city that really caters to tourists, so there are many tourism offices selling affordable trips and renting gear such as bikes and four-wheel off-road vehicles, which make traveling in the area a lot more convenient. Baños is also a gateway to the nearby Amazon basin, which makes it the perfect city for adventurers. From Baños, you can take trips to the Amazon rainforest, you can go rafting, kayaking, canyoning, paragliding, hiking, bungee jumping, and much more. Baños also has great nightlife and picturesque hotels and hostels for national and international travelers. And not to mention, tons of thermal pool parks. You can also go on a swing called El Columpio del Fin del Mundo in La Casa del Árbol, which is a tree house that lies on top of a mountain peak that overlooks the city of Baños. And finally, during the weekend of Carnival, my friends and I planned a trip to the coast, and we stayed in two very different coastal cities, in Canoa and in Manta, which lie in the Manabí province of Ecuador. Canoa was a small beach town, and we stayed in a beautiful hostel called Salina on the beach. This is a very chill and relaxed beach city. We took a boat ride around the bay, witnessed the most beautiful sunset that I have ever seen in my life, danced in small bars on the beach, and lounged away on hammocks during the day. Manta was a different story. It was a bigger city, and due to the fact that we went during Carnival, there were a lot of people, which was a little bit stressful for us gringuitos. But we made the best of it. The highlight of Manta was probably the beachfront pool club, where we spent our first day. The sunset was amazing, and we enjoyed a few beers with locals. Either way, you have to try the fresh ceviche sold on the beach, no matter what beach you visit in Ecuador. One of the most popular beach towns in Ecuador is Montañita, and for some good reasons. But as I promised before, my travels in Montañita and the Amazon rainforest will be included in my next video about Ecuador. So stay tuned for my next video about my travels in Ecuador, where I will share about my trips to the jungle, and some coastal cities, and some other cities in the mountains. And there you have it, guys. Those were some of the first places that I was able to visit in Ecuador that left an amazing impression on me. So much so that I decided to return to Ecuador a few months later. I learned a lot in Ecuador. Not only because I studied there, but because I met incredible people who made my travels there so much more vibrant and worthwhile. Ecuador is a country whose economy thrives off of its tourism, and it's a great place to travel in all types of environments, not to mention it's pretty damn affordable. So, if you're an adventurer looking to explore La Pachamama or meet a new vibrant culture and people, Ecuador is the place to go. So if you enjoyed my video, please give it a like, subscribe to my channel, and stay tuned for my upcoming travel videos, because there will be more where this came from. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.